The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. The Mets in the zone. I'm Ralph Tyko of the Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. The two Met maidens are here tonight. They are Robert Cole and Marty Rose. Hello, Robert, first.
Hello, how is everything going, Ralph?
All is well in Alamedaville and in Ralphieville. How about you, Mert?
Very good, thank you, Ralph. Very good.
Good. We have a special guest, the esteemed Pittsburgh Pirate fan, Alan Blumkin. Hello, Al.
Hello, Ralph.
Good. Good to hear your voice. I know you're really not into what's going on in today's day and age. Baseball, let's start with that. How has baseball lost you? And you are amongst the five people I know, two of them here, who are absolutely consumed by the game and have been all your life. How has the game changed enough that it's not holding your interest?
Very simple. First of all, there's the 7-inning doubleheaders like the Mets are playing today.
Right.
And these runner on second base in extra innings.
Okay.
The analytics.
Right.
And the way pitchers are used. But the big thing is, and the games take so long.
Right.
Yeah, it's just. I just can't watch it this year. If I want to follow a local game here, I put the radio on. I can't watch these games.
I've always been a radio guy, and I think it goes best with baseball. But that gives some clarity to it, and that may give the audience and anybody listening some idea of the disenchantment that baseball has caused. Speak along those lines, Robert, for you. What are you disenchanted about?
Well, Alan summed it up pretty good, but the problem is that if you're a baseball fan and you love baseball, this is the way it's going to be. I mean, Major League Baseball has an advertisement now with Fernando Tatis where he says, okay, I know people are mad at me, okay, for some of the things I do, but we're never going back. And true words were never spoken. So, we're in a position, us older guys, where, either you walk away from the game, or if you're really into the game, and I think three of us here are, you just go along with it. You don't have to be happy. It's not what we grew up with. It's never going to be what we grew up with again. So, it's either walk away or, adapt.
No, it's not that it's so much. I follow it. Okay, I follow it on the ESPN app. I follow it on the MLB app. I just cannot bring myself to watch it. And watch the 5,000 commercials for Liberty Insurance.
Okay, well, that's different. Okay, yeah, that's fine. But like I said, there's no going back. It is what it is. So, you either going to have to adapt to it or walk away. And some people I know have walked away. So.
Well, here's a high note about some of the things that Al talked about. The seven inning doubleheaders are going to be a thing of the past next year, from what I understand. And I'll ask you, Marty, if you know whether or not the runner on second will be in next year.
Yeah, they're leaning towards eliminating that as well.
Oh,
but,
okay.
You don't know how much the COVID thing has to do with all this. I mean, if it continues to worsen as it is now, and it's not cleared up by the time like spring training starts next year, they could keep these things back in effect. But it depends what goes into the new agreement with the players too. See, that's coming up, and
that's all part of this. I mean, you're hearing this, you're hearing that. You don't know for sure what's going to be until they actually sit at the table. Both sides are going to have things that they're going to throw out there, and there's just no telling right now.
Well, Marty seems to be convinced that the designated hitter will be in both leagues next year. Am I correct?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure about that because, that's a negotiating thing, and obviously it's another job, a high-paying job, and more. There are guys that are not playing this year just because there's no DH in the National League, and it's an important job, big-paying job, and I'm positive, I'm really sure that's going to be negotiated in next year.
Okay, if we weren't talking about money, what are some of the things that you are happy about with the DH and unhappy about? Alan?
Yeah, well, basically, it took me a very long time to accept it. Because I have a couple of friends who were violently opposed to it. And I was for years because pitchers, you basically were using one-dimensional players. I mean, when I was growing up, you had to both hit and field.
Right.
And it was becoming like football.
Yes.
You had field goal kickers and punt returners, all these people that play specialized positions. But in the last several years, I realized that this is going to not go away. And it's as Marty said, there's a very high probability that when the CBA is negotiated, that the NL will permit it.
Yeah, the Mets had a guy pitcher bat the other day that I think he had like 4 at-bats in his career, So, I mean, it's insane. Why do they bother with this? And if you have interleague play, you cannot have American League pitchers come up to bat. It just makes no sense. Some of these guys never hit, and they're not even used to running the bases, and they get hurt just running. So it's got to change.
Or just swinging the bat.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
DeGrom got hurt with an oblique something or other just by swinging the bat.
Yep, absolutely.
Robert Stock got hurt after throwing an inning running to first base.
That's right.
Okay.
Well, there's the Yankees had a pitcher a number of years ago, Chen-Min Wang.
Yes.
Who won 19 games 2 years in a row, and then he wound up getting hurt running the bases, and his career was shot.
That's right.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
I remember that.
But let's face it, don't you guys, all three of you, miss the days of Bob Turley and Don Newcomb and some of the other really good hitting pitchers, and the expression, help yourself, kid.
Yeah.
In other words, you're the pitcher, help yourself. I found that to be, when you're talking about the lore of the game, I always found that to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, but there was no other option then. You were used to it, and we all accepted this is the way it is, and that was fine. But it's not that way anymore. It just isn't.
I know. I know. I think that what it does, it ruins the pace of the game in terms of the intellect of the manager of what to. I mean, it's a push-button thing in the American League. But in the National League, you make a switch. It's a double switch. You bring a guy in. I always thought that was quite compelling and gives you something to talk about between pitches. That type of thing. I just miss it. That's all.
One thing I'd like to know from everybody: do you approve of the 3-batter rule?
I don't have. How much is that slowing down the game?
No, it's not so much slowing down. It means, and this has affected the Yankees a lot. That means you have to leave an incompetent reliever in there to face 3 batters, even though you can tell from pitch 1 that he doesn't have it.
Yeah, I don't like it personally. So it takes a little time to warm up another guy. Okay, I don't like it. But this is what's going on now. They're trying to speed things up, and
even with it,
like getting rid of the intentional walk, that's really speeded it up.
All right, let's take a moment. I have this well planned out, believe it or not, such as my plans are. 1962, the Mets are formed. The Pirates come in. Start with you, Alan. You're the Pirate fan. Who are you happy to see? I know the Giant fan, me, the Dodger fan, you guys, Marty and Robert, were happy to see the Dodgers come in. Mert, you were happy to see Willie come in as well. What was it for you seeing the Pirates come in 62? We hadn't had National League ball in New York for all these years. The Pirates won the World Championship in 60 between then and 62. What were you thrilled at the first time you saw the Pirates?
Basically, I went to the University of Pittsburgh for 4 years in the early 60s, and Forbes Field was 2 blocks away from the school. Forbes Field became my second home.
Nice.
Okay.
So I know that the Pirates did beat the Mets 16 times in the 18 games. And the Dodgers were the other one that beat them 16 times. But that Met team was very, very brutal. And the face of the team became Bob Thornberry.
Right.
Sadly,
I knew they were going to be terrible. And I was watching one game. I forget, it was 62 or 63 when I'm watching this game. My father comes in, and he says, my father was not a baseball fan at all. He calls, he says, "What's the score of this?" I said, 13-0. It was something like that. So he says, "Why are you watching this?" Because the Dodgers may score 100 runs. I think they won the game 17-0. But those first years, they were just absolutely brutal.
Yeah.
And I got to see them more when after they moved to Shea. A lot more.
Right, the first game.
Yeah, I was at the second one.
We all went to that first game together, and
Shea.
Yeah, and that was the Pirates. I think they won 4-3. Stargell hit the first home run.
Yeah.
I don't remember that much about 62, to tell you the truth, except maybe I remember that doubleheader we went to with the Braves when the Mets won 2 games by walk-off homers.
And it was a high holy day in the Jewish religion, which my parents had my father had relatives that was somewhat obedient to it all, and we had to leave early. My brother went to that game too, and we had to leave early and missed the second game of that. but Hobie Landreth hit a home run off Warren Spahn in the first game, and we had we were right behind home plate. Am I right? That's how I remember it. We had good seats and left that. My brother and I had to go to Ann Fagel's house for Canadalach.
Yeah. Gil Hodges won the second game. I don't remember who he hit it off.
Well, Spahn tore up the clubhouse after that because if I remember correctly, the Landreth home run dropped into the first row of. It's like the Dusty Rhodes home run in 1954 was the first game.
Yeah. And that reminds me, that was called a Chinese home run.
Chinese home run, yeah.
And now if you say it, that's a slur.
I know that, yeah.
To someone. We live in an age of political correctness which precludes we talking like we really talk. That's all. Little
the
things
Cleveland
like
Guardians.
that.
Yeah.
Yes, as if there weren't Native Americans really protesting this, from what I understand.
Now, the problem with the Indians was the logo, the Chief Wahoo.
And they did away with that.
Yeah, they did away with
that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they had to change the name. I mean,
right. Now the Redskins, I could understand.
Yes.
Yeah. That's an inadvertent. Even that was an inadvertent slur. I don't think they thought, well, should we put this in? Redskins will offend a few people. No, that wasn't even thought of back then.
You know why they were named the Redskins?
No.
Because they originated in Boston. That was an offshoot of the Braves.
Really?
Oh.
Yeah, they played in Boston from 1932 to 1936, and they moved to Washington because they were in the championship game in 1936 and couldn't sell tickets in Boston at all, so they moved it to the Polo Grounds.
Oh. Little did they know that Babe Parilli would bring Boston back to football. Merton, did you have Alan and Robert? Did you guys go to the Polo Grounds to see the original Titans?
No.
Yes, I did.
Okay. What are your memories of that?
Well, one of my friend's fathers was an usher. He was an usher at not an usher, a special, they call it special cop at the Polo Grounds at Yankee Stadium. And he came home with thousands of tickets that they couldn't sell, and he was giving them away, to people in the building. The Titans just wanted people in the building, so they were giving the tickets away, basically. And even at that, I think it was me, my father, 20 other people, and, the players on the field, basically.
Yeah, well, I got 4 tickets to every game from my uncle, and me and Ralph went to just about every one, and we couldn't get other guys to go for free. Because you had to take a train all the way from Queens, So they wouldn't even bother. Saturday night also, the games were Saturday night.
Yeah. And, so you and Ralph were two of the other 20 people that were there with me.
I remember there was one evening they were playing the Texans, and we sat next to, because they had so many seats, but when you had to sit in your seat, I guess, we sat next to 2 Dallas Texans, wives or girlfriends, and they were very cute. Their mates were defensive backs, and I can't think of their names now, but they were and we chatted with them. I'm from Texas, and here we are, big city. Hey, you're a Jew. Hey, Marty, I can tell your friend's a Jew because of the way he just jabbers on.
They're now the Chiefs. They moved to Kansas City after 1962.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Abner Haynes.
Yeah.
Now, I had I don't know if you guys remember, the AFL put out a yearbook, and it had all the teams in it. And it was not as extensive as an individual, team yearbook, but it was pretty good, and I can't seem to find that in my mess. 50 years of saving right. Stuff, but I can remember Dallas, the Texans were with Abner Haynes, and each team, Cookie Gilchrist, stars, guys, people to draw to. It was fun.
Yes, it was.
I mean, it's fun following them and fun having the memories of doing it. Now, you got tickets, Robert, from your friend who was a cop. His dad was a cop. Marty, how did we get the tickets?
Yeah, well, my uncle was a sports writer at AP, and at that time, all the teams would give tickets to the press. They stopped that a long time ago, but back in those days, they would always get to give tickets to the press, and not just for the guys covering the game. There was extra ones. So my uncle always got us tickets to just about everything he could.
Everything. We got the roller derby with Mike Gammon and his beautiful wife, who was a blonde.
Judy McGuire.
Judy McGuire. Whoa.
I have their autographs someplace. I don't know what happened to that book, but
I remember the little book they gave us for autographs when we were that old. A little blue book where you turn the page, and
right.
And we did collect their autograph, and that was fun.
Yeah, roller derby was fun. Yeah, no question.
I knew when the AFL was going to make it. When the bookies started taking bets on it, on the games.
That's
yes,
a good point.
That's when this new space thing with shooting millionaires into space will become a spectator sport when Vegas puts up the odds of these bastards never coming back, going up there, never coming back. 3-1. I'll take that. Even if I lose, I tried. What better way to spend your money? I mean, there's people on this world that are starving. You got world hunger. You got a planet that's going to hell. And they go up there for a joyride, and they spend $2 billion instead of giving it back.
Yeah, that's it.
What are you going to do? Alan, you want to join us for talking a little bit about the Mets and what's going on? Or will this not interest you?
All right. I'm in mourning because the Pirates made another stupid trade yesterday.
Who did they trade?
They traded Adam Frazier.
Their best player.
Because he was eligible to either arbitration or free agency after this year. And anytime they have a very good player approaching that, they get rid of them for prospects or suspects, so push it back. We're building for 2025, and they've been doing this for years. So it's very discouraging being a fan of this. But
it would have to be.
But
where I got
two games
that
with the Mets when the Mets blew the lead, and the Pirates got 5 in the 8th and 4 in the 9th, and then the next day the Pirates blew a 6-0 lead.
Right. Those were very exciting games. Win, lose, or draw.
The only time I root against the Mets is when they play the Pirates, 7 games. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Those are good games they played. What
would happen, Alan, if the Pirates played the Yankees in the World Series tomorrow?
Neither team would win.
No. No, but I mean, who would you root for?
Well, I rooted for the Pirates in 1960. In fact, I was a freshman at Pitt. I was 17, and me and a friend of mine, after Hal Smith hit the home run in the 8th inning, we ran over to Forbes Field. We snuck into the left field bleachers, so I was there when Mazeroski hit the home run.
Oh, jeez. Wow. That's great.
That is great.
I bought a program on the way out for 50 cents, which I still have. Yeah.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
What's the best thing about Pittsburgh I know we've talked about this compared to New York, and what did you miss about New York when you lived in Pittsburgh?
Well, Pittsburgh, I know, Pittsburgh, the greatest thing about Pittsburgh, it was very compact. It didn't take that long to get from point A to point B. And when I went there, they still had trolley cars, which, in New York, they got rid of them, I think, in 50 or 51. So I was dumbfounded by that. And in New York, especially when it came to basketball, because Pittsburgh had a team, and there was a league called the American Basketball League, where George Steinbrenner owned the Cleveland team. It lasted a year and a half, but there was no NBA team there. Oh. So I missed going to the old Garden, when I was, when I was in Pittsburgh.
Did Connie Hawkins play for the Pittsburgh
Yeah, he played
Rams?
for that team, and then he played for that team when they, the Pittsburgh team in the ABA. But I was, that was 1967. I was out of there in 1964.
Yeah.
I used to go to Steeler games in Forbes Field. They would open up the center field gate at the halftime.
Oh.
They got him for half a game for nothing.
Wow.
Well, here's a question for you guys from George Grimm. It's off the subject, but he mailed it to me earlier on. He was curious about something, and you mentioned that they had football at Forbes Field. Did they have football at Ebbets Field as well, guys?
Yeah. There was a team called the Brooklyn Football Dodgers that was in the NFL for about 11, 12 years. And then when the American Football Conference was formed, Branch Rickey put a team in Brooklyn. And from what I've read, that one of the things O'Malley hated about Rickey was that team lost a lot of money.
That was the thing. That was the thing that started the feud between O'Malley and Rickey. Was the fact that Rickey insisted on investing in the Dodgers football team, and O'Malley thought it was a waste of money. And as it turned out, he was right.
Yeah. Well, were Rickey and O'Malley equal partners then? Or?
Yes. Yeah.
For a while, and then there was a third owner, a guy who founded Pfizer.
Yes.
Okay, and O'Malley, he died, and O'Malley got the widow. Under his influence, O'Malley controlled 2/3 of the stock, and then, went up buying out Rickey for $1 million because Rickey had a rich friend that bid it up.
That's the moral of the story. Don't die, guys, and you won't leave a widow for somebody else.
Yeah, and so anyway, if you thought that O'Malley hated Rickey for the football team, when he had to pay $1 million, which should have been, at best half of what he paid for the remaining shares. He hated Ricky so much that he would fine any office employee who mentioned Ricky's name.
Well, I guess Clemente sealed the deal of the hatred, if anybody could. Clemente, who branched Ricky, acquiesced from the Dodgers after he unceremoniously left Brooklyn.
Yeah, well, he played in Montreal in 1954, and they hit him. They only played like a third of the games or something like that because they didn't want to expose him that much. But Clyde Suckerforth, who was a Dodger coach, who in fact he was the one that brought Jackie Robinson to see Ricky, saw Clemente play a couple of times and told Ricky Pirates had the first pick in the Rule 5 or whatever it was at that point, and they grabbed Clemente for $5,000.
Yeah.
And Elroy Face also came out of the Dodger system.
Who?
Elroy Face.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow, that had to have riled O'Malley in 1960 for sure.
Yeah, and the strangest thing, I was only 5 years old when this happened. I didn't know anything. When Leo DeRocha went from the Dodgers to the Giants overnight.
Right. That had to have shocked both teams.
Yeah.
There's some pictures of Leo in the Polo Grounds for the first time in a giant yearbook, in a giant uniform, and that was a strange picture for a lot of folks. It's before I was born, or not before I was born, but before I had any cognizant sense of what was going on. But that rivalry lasted a long time, and I think it was fueled by DeRocha. Am I correct? Okay.
Well, there was a mutual hatred. I mean, because the Giants, for years were on and near the top, and the Dodgers were, finishing in sixth place all the time.
Nice guys finish last.
Yeah.
DeRocha.
Yeah, that's one of the most self-serving autobiographies I've ever read.
Yes.
But I had friends who were big Dodgers and Giant fans when they moved out to California.
Right.
And none of them could bring themselves to root for the Yankees.
We were that way.
So the Mets came in, they filled the void.
Yes, they did.
Sure.
What do you remember about the Pittsburgh Met rivalry?
Okay, basically, over the years, if you look at this, when one team has been up, the other team has been down.
Okay.
I mean, there are exceptions, but that's the way it's really turned out to be.
They've been comparatively easy to root for, except for the last 5 years. Over the years, they've always been in some sort of contention. They've always had an interesting team, and you got Clemente at the center of it, real good pitching, Bob Friend, Vernon Law, the aforementioned Face.
And they were good in the 70s when the Mets were in the mid to late 70s when the Mets were on the downswing. And when the Mets came back in the mid 80s, the Pirates were on their way down. Yeah. And when the Pirates were good for the 3 years, they lost the LCSs in a row until everybody left for free agency. The Pirates became very bad for 20 years of losing, and the Mets, after the end of the 18th, when the Mets made the World Series in 2000, and they were pretty decent most of the 21st century, excuse me.
Would you speak to the Barry Bonds, Andy Van Slyke years?
Okay, well, Met fans are don't like that year because they wound up signing $1 million baby, Bobby Bonilla. We're going to pay forever. You know, July 1st is Bobby Bonilla Day.
But I can't say the Mets were all to blame for that. They put off paying the guy and they're paying him now with inflated dollars and money that they had to invest one way or the other for a long time. It was a good deal for both teams.
Well, the Mets are doing that because the Wilpons are more interested in paying Bernie Madoff.
Yeah.
Was that the same time? Did that path really cross?
It was Madoff was in the early 2000s.
Oh, wow! That could be the reason. Bobby Bonilla. I never put those two together. Yeah. Wonder how he's doing in jail.
He's dead.
He's
dead.
Oh, that's peace at last.
He died a few months ago.
Yeah, he's not doing too well.
No.
I didn't even know he was sick. So you gotta excuse me. I'm out of touch. I got other things on my mind. Well, actually, I don't. But
the Met Pirate history has been, I mean, not every time, but it's been up and down. Most of the time. And I used to go every time the Pirates played in Shea Stadium for years. I went to the games, even when the weather was horrible or whatever. And I was at the night in '73 when David Augustine hit a ball that hit the top of the fence, the top of the wall there, bounced right back to Cleon Jones. He threw Richie Zisk, who couldn't run at home plate.
Wow.
I went to all three. I went to 3 Met games in the World Series in 1969. I went to all the playoff and World Series games in 1973. And I had a Saturday plan there with people I worked with for years. And I went to one playoff game in '86, the game where Dykstra hit the home run of Houston. And
who's your favorite all-time Met?
Seaver.
I was Robert, who was your who was your favorite all-time Met?
Me? Yeah.
No, Robert.
Wow, that's a good question. Probably okay. David Wright.
Okay. Mert.
I got to go with Seaver, too. I mean, the guy was just unbelievable.
A friend of mine and I bought up a bunch of tickets when we knew he was coming into Yankee Stadium to go for $300. And we knew something that he... we made start talking about this in Oakland when they had the National Saber Convention out there. And we said, well, he has to have one win or either one loss or no decision to come in with $299. And he did. And he comes in with the White Sox, and he pitches a complete game to win $300. And there were a number of Yankee fans that left after the 7th inning. And I'm saying, are you nuts? This is history here.
Yeah.
Right. Wow. Walk out just for one reason or another. That's another thing that gets me is that people come late and leave early. That's not the way it was supposed to be. When we go to a game, we go for batting practice. We want to
I don't have that anymore. With the fans.
Yeah. it's not exactly a fan-friendly game like it was. Let's put it that way.
No,
Although
that giant Met doubleheader that me and the Bear went to, with the second game was the 23-inning game. We got there at 11:30 in the morning to watch batting practice because the Bear had to see his boys, had to see his Giants, and we didn't get out of there until 11:30 at night because he wanted to stay till the very end. We had school the next day.
Yeah,
I think it was Memorial Day, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
That weekend. I had experience. I went to a game in September 1974, and I had to work the next day. And the Mets were leading 3-1 after 8 innings. So I left. I figured, the way it was going, it was in the bag. The Cardinals, Ken Reitz, I think it was, a 2-run home run at the top of the ninth. And I went home. I had a friend with me who drove me home. And I watched, put it on. I watched the game at one ending of the quarter after 3. The Mets lost in 25 innings. And they spent a lot of time. I watched through the 17th. I couldn't make it any further. And they were giving shots of showing Ralph Kiner in the Kiner's corner room sleeping. And I had to keep the advanced sail windows open. I mean, it's just...
Hey, you mentioned Ralph Kiner. Let's go around the horn. Give me one Ralph Kiner memory, starting with Robert.
Well, that's kind of hard to pick out one Ralph Kiner memory, but
all right.
But the Father's Day one, probably, when he wanted to wish all the fathers a happy Father's Day, and he wished them all a happy birthday.
Right. Right. Marty, what do you remember about Ralph Kiner?
I think this was him. It was a story about him taking Elizabeth Taylor to the Academy Awards, and at the end, he's having, he sees everybody's car is pulling up to pick them up, and he asks the guy, well, where's my car? And the guy says, well, your chauffeur should be bringing it, because he didn't have a chauffeur,
And my funniest was, I did this a few times over the years. They're playing the Expos, and Tim Raines comes up, and Tim Raines comes up, and he starts saying, well, Tim has led the league in stolen bases the last couple of years, but this year he's being challenged by Vince Coleman of the St. Louis Browns, who at that point hadn't been in existence in 32 years. Another one, with a friend of mine, we had some exhibition game. We had to go somewhere. So he says to me, when do you want to leave? I said, just as soon as kind of calls Kurt Flood, who's an outfielder on the Cardinals, he calls him Kurt Flood. And no sooner I open my mouth, and Gary Cooper for Gary Carter.
And his Choo-Choo Coleman interviews were a great memory. Bob, what does your wife call you? What's your wife's name? Mrs. Coleman.
Yeah. What is she like?
What is she like?
Yes. Hey, Alan, you're the registered historian on Comfortably Zoned Radio Network. Speak to Ralph Kiner's career a little bit. How does he measure up against the all-time greats, which he was one of? How does he rate?
Well, there's a few things. Okay, first of all, he never played on a team that was close to a pennant winner. I mean, he finished up with the 55 Indians, but he was just back problems. But anyways, with the Pirates, his rookie year, he is 1946. He has 23 home runs and wins the National League home run title. Then they shortened the left field fence or wall, whatever, and they put a fence in front of the wall and down to the left field bleachers. It was called the Greenberg Gardens, and then when Greenberg left at 47, they called it Kindness Corner. So he went from 23 home runs to 51 home runs in a season. He did walk a lot. He did lead the National League a tie 7 years in a row. He had a very good on-base percentage, and his hitting for average was not all that good, but he did manage to walk a lot. He was not a very good fielder, and Ricky hated him because there was a presentation when I went to the Sabre Conference in Pittsburgh in 2018. Ricky left all his papers to the Library of Congress. So the curator there, brought some of them, and especially for the Kiner Ricky relationship. And Kiner was so tied into the owners because he was there before Ricky came there, that any time Ricky wanted to cut him or not give him the raise he thought he deserved, he'd go into the owners, and the owners would override Ricky.
Oh, okay.
And also Pittsburgh fans, who I'm friendly with quite a few of them, some of them who've been around as long as I have, told me that the Pirates most of the time were pretty terrible. In fact, 1952 they won 42 games and lost 112. That the fans in those days would leave after the home fans would leave after what they thought was Kiner's last at bat.
Right.
Didn't matter how close the game was. It says they're not going to win anyway. So after Kiner gets up the last time, we're out of here. What
was the story? We could win with you.
Ricky said them so we can finish last with you. We finished last with you. We can finish last without you.
That's what he said.
They finished last after 1952. They finished last for the next 3 years.
They were horrible,
was traded to the Cubs. He was traded to the Cubs. He had back problems. So to get back problems, so the Cubs kept him through 1954. Finished up with the 55 Indians, and retired. His career was only 10 years.
Was it shortened by the war, just out of curiosity?
No. He was 23 when he came up to the Pirates, as a rookie.
Oh, okay. So it was shortened by the injury more than anything else.
Yeah, the back. Yeah, I mean, there are players like Don Mattingly. There are a number of players, Charlie Keller, a number of players, Ted Kluszewski, that had their careers shortened because of back issues.
Right. I remember Moose Skowron had a back problem.
Oh, he had a problem with everything, with muscles,
Yeah. Boy, this hit me. He heard it originally. He was putting in an air conditioner in his house in New Jersey. And it hurt his back. And I remember thinking that back then, could he get somebody to put the fucking thing in?
They weren't making any kind of money. I mean, back then. I mean, if it was today, they'd have a whole army. Probably would have a whole army of,
They were making. I hear that a lot, but they were making considerably more than the average guy on the street. Even though they were.
It depends on how long you were there and how productive you were. I mean, it's negotiate. There were no multi-year contracts back then. Everything was 1 year.
Right, but they made more money than the working stiff.
Oh, yeah.
No, even back then. And didn't put you in a different class like it does now.
No.
It wouldn't put you behind in a gated community or like Mert lives.
There was only 2 times before free agency that players got to make decent money. One was the American League National League War in 1901, and the other was the Federal League in 1914, 1915, and that was it. And they once, any time during the 30s and 40s, the early 40s, when a player would have a very, very good year and go for a raise, and the owners would say to him, "Well, you could be picking the cotton, and during the Depression, this was you could be picking, working in mines or whatever, And then when the war came, and the ones who were not in the service, they said, "Well, you can wind up in the army for $50 a month." They really squeezed them, very, very badly. And I don't think GMs like Rickey or George Weiss, would survive in the way today's game is. I mean, the Mets spent, what, $34 million, $340 million on Lindor? Yeah. And he's really given them a lot so far.
Sore spot in my brain, I'll tell you. I gave up on him very early, and I found myself regretting it because before he got hurt, he was starting to put things together a little bit, and he has an incredible personality where he's good in the clubhouse.
Yeah, he changes his hair color all the time, yeah.
Yeah, it's today's game, Al.
I know, yeah.
Gus Bell never changed his hair color.
Gus Bell. Rickey made his worst trade when he got rid of Gus Bell after 1952 to Cincinnati. And the reason he got rid of him was they were training out in California in spring training in 1952. And the players were ordered not to bring their families out there. And Gus Bell brought his wife and his little baby son, who was Buddy, out there. Rickey never forgave him for that. Yeah. Right. So he traded Bell to the Reds for 3-9 entities, and Bell became an all-star for a number of years with the Cincinnati.
Good ball player. Wally Post in those days, Vada Pinson,
the Mets had an outfield the first year, Frank Thomas, for a while until they got rid of Bell. Frank Thomas, Richie Ashburn, and Gus Bell. And Stengel said, we don't have the best outfield. We have the most fertile between the three of them. They had something like 21 kids. But Stengel really handled it well. And another story that I read recently was that they got Gene Woodling from the Expansion Senators in mid-'62. So Stengel was sitting in the dugout next to Woodling, and the Mets are blowing another one. So Stengel turns to Woodling and said, "Ain't like the old days, is it?"
Hey guys, I just looked down. We are up against it on the clock. We will talk. I promise everybody listening, we'll talk current Mets next time. Thank you, Al Blumkin.
Thank you. Thank you, Robert and Marty.
Good to talk, Al.
Marty is Marty Rose. Yep. Robert is Robert Cole. Now I got 3 mavens to deal with on one show. What the heck? Where's my union, for crying out loud? I want per diem. I want meal money. Thank you, guys. This was fun. I really enjoy it every week, every time we do it. And if you're listening out there, everybody.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
The proceeding has been a Comfortably Zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.